very nice to meet you.
Okay, and I'm Vicky, in case you haven't remembered. Welcome to Pasta Grannies live from 2Veneti in central London. And it's Simon's restaurant. Thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we're going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about Venetian cooking.
Excellent. You're in the right place.
It'd be a bit of trouble if I was thinking, oh, a bit of Sicilian food here, but no. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to open a
Well, the
Venetian
restaurant has been here for 18 years. Let's say I was born in England, but raised in Veneto, so in a very small town outside the my father obviously from there, so he's Italian, and grew up with a passion because there wasn't really much TV in those days, and my parents enjoyed a lot eating out. So schooling for me wasn't really the best of things, and I went into, let's say, restaurants, no hours, and at the age of 18, started in Milan, and by the age of 20, I was here. And I opened this restaurant 18 years ago with a very good friend of mine from Venice that we parted for different reasons and decided to do a proper Venetian restaurant.
Okay, which is pretty new. 20 years ago, we kind of knew that Venetian cooking.
Completely.
How would you characterize Venetian cooking? How does it differ from for example?
Let's say some. This is the thing. Veneto is a big region. We tend to simplify ourselves. So lots of people, let's say, travel to Venice. We try to instead, as a contribution, from Venice, we try to combine the two type of flavors. One is more, let's say, fish based, that is the Venetian one. I come from the hills of Poseidon area. Duck, this kind of flavors. So the type of flavors, I mean, to simplify Venetian cuisine, I'm basically because I tend to be kind of full flavor, lots of salt, like sardines, chorizo, capers.
Sweet and sour?
Sweet and sour, that's a very typical dish. It's the sour. Everybody knows that. Then they do sour of a lot of things. But starting sour is a very typical dish. That is mainly, let's say, sardine that is butterfly, fried with a bit of flour, and then kept in vinegar, wine, onions, sultanas. So you got all these influences of the Venetian travelers.
Can I just ask you about this huge plate of?
These are very big and very beautiful asparagus. This is more my part of Veneto. Okay. So here we're looking at Bassano. The people from Bassano really appreciate this stem that guarantees that they have from there. Tied in willows, and there's weeping willow that are the typical asparagus from there. Now, white asparagus are completely in season at this moment. They are not a lot of people know why they're white. It's the same type of asparagus as the green one. The difference is that they don't see any light. So they are grown. Let's say the moment they start popping out, they put them under sand and they just keep on growing under there.
No, so they're sort of a milder flavor.
Much more delicate, and much more precious because they work out.
They had to pile them under, that's what I'm saying, lots of sand.
They started as a mistake. Okay. Because, like a lot of things, because the asparagus were green, but apparently once there was a very big rain, that destroyed all the asparagus. So they realized that they wanted them anyway. So they started digging in, and then they realized that the rest of the asparagus was too white. And so they said, why don't we try it? And then it became quite famous in a lot of even northern countries, because Germany, Austria has a lot of asparagus. Obviously not as big.
Okay, and you were saying that when they were typically at home, boiled eggs.
There is still the international record now for Pero Bassano, but the traditional way is to boil them and overboil them so they become really solid, really mashy. And they used to serve them with boiled eggs, but boiled eggs are not even clean. So you get your very nice and hot asparagus with the boiled eggs. You clean them up and then you mash them with a fork, and then just put salt, pepper, vinegar, and oil.
No butter.
No butter.
And
I guess you could, you could, but the traditional.
we're in the north after all. I mean, that's so now. I bet not many. I didn't know what this was because anyone.
This is different. These are bruscandoli.
Bruscandoli. Can you see those?
Bruscandoli.
Very precious.
Very precious
Very
and
wild. Very forage.
very much so. And this is not really something that you can buy up the shelf.
No, you have to forage these.
This is hops. It's wild hops, but same season as asparagus. Lots of farmers where I came from used to call them wild asparagus, even if they're all different.
Can you eat them raw?
You can.
May I?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
They got a very mild and kind of slightly bitterish finish to them.
I wish I could taste the beer. I can't.
You need to try, and the process is a bit. They need to grow a bit more, but it's the first. It's the first step. You know, usually hops they become not all this big. I imagine this is the flower. So these are
Intense flavor, really.
Yeah.
Nice.
But let's say same thing. It's a bit like the white asparagus. You have to treat it in a way that you taste this. So
Intense grassy flavor.
Yeah. If you start mixing it, you know, with sauces or everything, so you lose completely the flavor.
Okay.
So same as the white asparagus, some people will blanch them, some people will use them in frittatas. Some people, let's say, the traditional dish where I come from is with riso bruscandoli. So it's white rice with a vegetarian stock or a very light chicken stock and bruscandoli. Then obviously cheese, parmesan, or some dried cheese. And same thing you will do with the white asparagus or gnocchi.
Yeah. Delicious. That's really good. We'll be doing that later.
Yeah, these I'm very fond of because they really remind me of childhood.
Now tell us about your grandmothers and what influenced
Yeah,
them.
well, grandmother, and I remember with my grandmother, and I had this lovely old aunt that was actually my father's aunt. I always called her aunt because she treated me like direct son. And we used to go foraging for bruscandoli. So they used to take me out, but they used to call it wild asparagus, and that's why all of a sudden I realized that. But for them boys, they try to remind you, let's say, when they're really big, let's say the plant is straight, and they used to describe it to me like an asparagus. And we used to go, and ideally they grow, let's say, close to rivers, so they like the water. Let's say in the middle or complete, you need to really look for them. It's like let's say in the middle of foraging completely, and the fresher they are, the better they are. And let's say I had them in salads as well, and so straight back home and it's easy.
We've also had a question from someone, which from Riri, which is what is the best pasta shape to eat with asparagus?
Good question.
Well, how are you going to serve the asparagus?
I said we're going to do it with gnocchi.
Gnocchi. Okay. So
Because-
just chop it up.
Chop it up, yes, and let's say slightly blanch them, and in this case we use butter.
Okay.
Let's say to make like a creamy sauce, and then Monteveronese, that is a type of say a bit more flavors of some type of parmesan. So this is the type of dish we will do here. Pasta, otherwise they have them with tagliatelle. I think tagliatelle then can get a bit too full of flavor because of the egg.
Yeah.
Gnocchi is for me gnocchi or a very plain risotto is the best because you just keep it simple.
Yes.
Gnocchi is just potato.
So really, it's more of an antipasto, isn't it, rather than
Pasta dish. Let's say with the egg, yes, they used to serve it as a main course.
Right.
But yes, here we do serve. Let's say now everybody has this thing of asparagus as.
Is it one of your specials?
Well, we have it. We're running a special up to Easter.
Okay.
There was white asparagus with eggs. Exactly. And we did a 2 full week of white asparagus. But obviously let's say we couldn't really serve the boiled egg and ask our customers to break the eggs and squash them with a fork. So we did a bit of a more friendly type. Exactly.
Oh, that's great.
But Stefano, our chef, did a very good job on it. I was very impressed.
And actually, while you're chatting about the menu, we had a question in advance from one of our followers, which was, what is your personal favorite dish on the menu and why?
Okay. Good question.
I mean, shall I test you?
No, the menu, no, let's say what I would suggest somebody to have here, that would be exactly the same. I mean, I obviously eat here quite a lot of times. I can't eat the same thing every time, but fritto misto, that is another very Venetian dish as a main course, and we do it, I think, in a very decent way.
Vitello tomato?
Tonato is more Piemonte, but it's. I
Yes,
know
it
it.
is.
We used to eat it.
So your rules are a little bit.
Yes, we had
Flexible,
to. We had to.
Okay.
We have all our salumis, as you see here. These all come from Veneto, apart from the steak, actually.
Really, I mean, it's things like risotto and polenta. And
Polenta, yes,
polenta.
sappi sour.
Yeah.
Or d'estate baccalà mantecato. Baccalà mantecato so cod, that is the master from Venice. So I would say yes. My favorite dishes, Venetian dishes in here, would be baccalà mantecato, spaghetti alle vongole, and a fritto misto.
And bigoli
Bigoli salsa.
salsa.
That's good, yeah.
Salsa.
We've tried that.
We have.
Yeah.
It's very good. Bigoli salsa is with anchovies and onions, and that may not sound very exciting, but it is fantastic.
But I come from Treviso, so Asolo, and the version, let's say, as I said, Veneto, split being in Venice, I have it with anchovies, we have it with duck. Duck or baby fowl, let's say. A very slow cooked type of white ragu, so no tomato involved, and that's pretty.
I want to explain where Asolo is.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's this wonderful little hilltop town. You think of the Veneto as very flat, but there's this temple, which is Asolo.
It is. It's the first hill you would come across if you go straight north from Venice.
Yeah, it's this most charming hilltop town.
Lots of prosecco, that's why
Lots of
it's very
prosecco.
charming.
Very, go and visit it if you ever have a chance.
It is.
Great.
They call it La Perla del Veneto. It is unique. It is unique. For all the very important Venetian families had a house in. That's why Asolo became famous, because in the 1300s, let's say, obviously there were no Ryanairs or things like that, and people used to go on holiday from Venice when it gets, July, August, and it starts a bit hot. They used to go to Asolo.
And what is your most popular dish on the menu?
Liver. I would say fritto misto is very popular. What we do with liver, we don't do it alla veneziana, because that was a bit of a discussion with my business partner, in the way that I said, okay, let us do it really alla veneziana, traditional, with the onions and liver cut a bit thicker. And then I said, but sounds, in those days, lots of restaurants, Italian restaurants used to do, was kind of, saltimbocca alla romana, fegato alla veneziana, done in an appalling way. So I said, listen, why don't we maybe twist it and do it in a more elegant way? That is the same base, but instead of frying it in the flour, and that was all the allergenic point of view, we came up with the same type of idea, that is a very finely sliced calf liver, grilled, and we make a sauce based with a bit of butter and scalogno.
Scalogno being
exactly, smaller onions.
Small fresh onions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we slow cook it and we serve it on top. So it's a similar type of idea as fegato veneziana, but it's grilled. So it's a bit lighter, and it's become our, I would say, most also fish.
Okay.
We get lots of gentlemen, myself included, because my wife hates
Okay.
cooking the liver.
Excuse me. So we're also I'm drinking this, which is actually
Frognino.
But tell me about the drinks at the Veneto. There's one of so there's all the lovely aperitivis that you have.
Aperitivis, yes. Spritz now has become a big thing.
Yeah.
Very happy about it, because I mean, for me, it was such an awful. Everybody, even when I was a kid, you had all these colored drinks going around, with Aperol, or obviously it was still out to drink, but we started pretty early in Veneto. And then Select and Campari, and everybody was having, the white wine with a drop of this and a drop of that. Now Spritz has become a bit slightly changed, so far. One of the Spritz was flat water, let's say still water, wine. And traditionally, I think, and I've been even said that it's true, it used to be done because the wine wasn't very drinkable. It was a very good way
So we're
to,
masking.
to mask the wine, apparently. Now it's becoming, let's say, it's a kind of select or
Yeah, so Select is one of the brands. It's
One
only
of the brands,
available in the Veneto.
Mm.
isn't it?
yes, but it's starting to take place because Aperol is a lovely drink, but maybe a bit on the Swedish side. Campari is very manly, very
Mm.
bitter, and Select is in between. I'm a very big
Yeah, Select.
also.
Yeah.
And what have you got in your glass?
I'm having a glass of Lugana that is another, not really Venetian, we're going more towards all is Veneto, but actually on the border with Lombardy. So this is Legana. It's a Lugana that is a Cortese family. And it's nice, light, crisp, easy drinking. It's simply, I would say, it's the most sold wine in the rest.
And on the topic of easy drinking, sorry to interrupt you, but we have had a question here, which is it true that the Venetians are the biggest drinkers in Italy?
Completely.
The
Biggest drink.
yes.
Not
Say
agree
no,
with you.
I can say. We do have a bit of an reputation. I mean, there is a lot of wine produced. Veneto
Yes,
is the
it
region that
has to be drunk.
produces the
Yes.
most, so well grown. Yeah.
You
Venice hasn't really got the same excuse because
No.
there's no wine there, but
No.
they get it all down to them.
But it's a sensible kind of drinking, really well-ish, in as much as they start at breakfast.
And yes, it's a lot of eating. And there is, let's say, especially in Venice, in all the cicchetti.
It's not the English way of just drinking a
Yeah.
large amount.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
kind of tippling.
And I remember, say, I grew up in countryside completely, and winters now the weather changes a bit everywhere in the world. But the winters in Veneto were proper winters, and we're talking about -20. And these people, waking up at 4 o'clock and starting to go in the fields, taking out their cows and whatsoever. I mean, their breakfast was a sandwich with soppressa and a glass of clean tongue. That the Venetians will know what I'm talking about. That this kind of Swedish grape that makes a very powerful kind of wine, not with a very high content of alcohol, but it was fruit juice.
Okay.
So you give them sugar, you give them a bit of boost, and nice soppressa that is a local salami sandwich, and started your day. So lots of things come with the diets. Every colder country, I mean, apart from Veneto, Argentina, another part of the world, they do pretty good drinking there as well.
Yeah.
We, let's say, specialize.
That's good.
We've also had a question all the way from Sydney, Australia.
Wow.
Which
Plenty of Venetians not there, but I know.
which is what is the best dish served for Pasquetta?
Ah,
But torta pasqualina,
that's Ligurian.
they're Ligurian, but yeah, it goes a bit everywhere.
Yeah. It's a big
For us,
variety.
it's asparagus. Asparagus usually is Easter. I mean, okay, Easter changes, but yeah, you would get.
It's from family to family. There isn't quite the same sort of.
No.
You will have pasta on.
I wouldn't say that I know there is a really traditional dish for Easter. I mean, there is lamb, but it's something that you get even in Italy. I would say you will get asparagus. That would be an egg. So that was
We've just been down to Sicily, so it was a timbalo or some of the pies, tomatoes and things like that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do quite a lot of those. But again,
Trizia is from Palermo. What do you have in Palermo?
We have agnello.
Cacoccioli.
We have cacoccioli.
Cacoccioli that we did as well.
Cacoccioli is the artichoke. Barbecue on grill.
Yes,
So they're just completely grilled. That's the classic Pasquetta dish.
Yes, absolutely adore that. So what you do with your stuffed artichoke is you put garlic and parsley.
So it's parsley and olive oil.
Olive oil.
Just put them on.
But first of all, you have this very splendid thing where you grab your artichoke and you whack
And you whack it. Yeah, you know exactly what we're talking about.
like that, and then you get rid of all your anger.
And so we came back from some holidays. We were abroad, and we came back on Saturday night. So Sunday obviously was Easter. And I knew there was something in the air. My wife wasn't happy because we didn't have any artichokes. So I landed 10 o'clock at night when I'm gonna find out. So Sunday morning, I managed to find a Turkish shop traveling around London, and he had free artichokes. Nice, pretty big, so pretty decent. I mean, not Sicilian artichokes. I came back home and she looked at me. She said, "Only free." Because in Sicily, when they eat properly.
Yes, yeah. So you barbecued them, you had smoked them, and they're absolutely
They are delicious.
delicious. That's probably the best way of eating artichokes.
We do have
Other
them
than
in
caponata.
Veneto. We do have them.
Yes, you do
Yeah.
on the island.
On the island and Castradore.
Yeah.
They're very delicacy in the way that there is this small island just outside Venice where they grow all the artichokes that are, you can Castradore by caviar on your plate.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's quite a lot of very hungry Venetians. And when the season comes, they produce a lot of them, but they eat only the heart of the young ones, and they're delicious.
Very good.
But they cook them in a different way. There is a lot of garlic involved. Obviously, yes, parsley and oil, but they're slow cooked.
Yeah,
So they
it's
can
braised.
get more braised, more similar to the Romano.
Very good.
Any last questions before we wrap up and go see how Stefano's doing with the
Yes.
prep of the gnocchi
Yes. Well, we're going to go downstairs to the kitchen, so slight break. But thank you very much
on TikTok?
on TikTok.
Thank you all.
We're
Thank
changing
you.
platforms, spreading ourselves around a bit. So thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're now going to continue the conversation downstairs, and we're going to be using both of these things downstairs in the kitchen. So join us on another platform.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you very
Ciao.
much indeed.
Okay.